The story begins in a small fishing town called Capernaum, the kind of place where news travels fast and people gather quickly. And on this particular day, the news was simple. Jesus was home. People rushed to the house where he was staying, and by the time the sun was fully up, the place was overflowing. People stood shoulder to shoulder, pressed into doorways, leaning through windows, trying to hear every word he said. Inside, Jesus was teaching, calm, steady, completely present, and the whole room felt alive with expectation. But the real story was happening outside. Down the road, 4 men were carrying their friend on a mat. The man couldn't walk and hadn't been able to for a long time. Maybe years. Maybe his whole life. But what mattered most that day wasn't his condition. It was his friends. They had heard Jesus was in town, and they believed that if they could just get their friend to him, something would change. So they carried him step after step, street after street. But when they reached the house, their hearts sank. There was no room, not even outside the door. Most people would have said, "Well, we tried." But not these 4. They looked at the house, looked at the roof, looked at each other, and somehow they all knew the plan. They carried their friend up the outside staircase, carefully and slowly, until they reached the flat roof. It was made of packed clay and branches, strong enough to walk on, but not strong enough to stop determined friends. They knelt down and started digging. Inside, Jesus was teaching when dusk began to fall. People looked up. A crack of light appeared, then another, then another. And before anyone could make sense of it, a hole opened in the ceiling. Hands appeared, then ropes. And slowly, the friends lowered their paralyzed friend right into the middle of the room, right in front of Jesus. Imagine the silence. Imagine the tension. Imagine the hope. Jesus looked up at the friends on the roof, their faces dusty, their hands shaking from effort. Then he looked down at the man on the mat, eyes wide, breath held, waiting. And Jesus saw something deeper than desperation. He saw faith, faith that climbs stairs, tears through roofs, and refuses to give up. Jesus spoke gently, "Son, your sins are forgiven." The room stirred. Some people gasped, others frowned. A few religious teachers whispered to themselves, questioning him silently. Jesus turned toward them and said, "Which is easier, to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up and walk'?" Then he looked back at the man. "Get up, take your mat, and go home." For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then the man shifted. A twitch in his foot, a stretch in his leg, strength returning where there had been none. He sat up. He stood. He took a step, then another, and the room erupted. Gasps, tears, laughter, disbelief. People stepped aside as the man picked up the mat he had been lying on moments before and walked out the door. Walked out, the same door he couldn't even reach earlier. I like to imagine the friends still on the roof, peeking through the hole they made, watching their friend walk for the first time in who knows how long. Maybe they laughed, maybe they cried, maybe they just sat there in stunned silence. But one thing is certain, their faith, their stubborn, determined, roof-breaking faith, changed everything. Inside the house, people were still trying to process what they had seen. Some covered their mouths in shock. Some whispered prayers. Some stared at Jesus with new eyes. And slowly, a phrase began to ripple through the room. "We've never seen anything like this." Because they hadn't. Not the healing. Not the forgiveness. Not the courage of 4 friends who refused to give up. This story isn't just about a man who couldn't walk. It's about the people who carried him. It's about the obstacles that didn't stop them. It's about the moment when faith became action. Messy, inconvenient, hopeful action. And it's about Jesus seeing more than a broken body. He saw a whole person, a whole story, a whole life waiting to be restored. Sometimes the miracle begins long before the healing, in the climb, in the effort, in the love of people who refuse to give up on you.